Welcome to the Mystical Motherhood Podcast. This is Chelsea, and I want you to create a happy family. I use my background in Western and Eastern medicine, birth, and ancient yogic practices to help the modern mother learn how to live a healthier life and create conscious children. This is your guide to fertility, conception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and the early childhood years. Are you ready to live the life of your dreams? Welcome back to the Mystical Motherhood Podcast Season 3. This is a really exciting episode. Sarah's here as our guest, and she's going to talk about different aspects of her personality that are completely destroying her happiness. And so in this episode, we name these aspects of her personality, which you will learn how to do too. And so you can begin to make a joke about how much you want to destroy yourself. It becomes a little bit funny. I talk about where these aspects of our subpersonalities live, how we can identify when they're arising, how to map them out, how to draw them out on paper, how to find them within your auric field, and basically how to understand how one major sabotager or subconscious aspect can take over your life and then almost create a cancer spreading out to different aspects and sliding into other things like the way you eat or the way you approach people or the way that you leave your house or how they function and how they are always going to try to win your life and take you away from your highest destiny. So I hope that you love this podcast. If you do, please subscribe. Please leave a message at mysticalmotherhood.com. Both of my books, Fertile and Mystical Motherhood, can be found on Amazon, and you can go to www.mysticalmotherhood.com to write me any questions about these podcasts, to find my books, and to work with me privately. Otherwise, leave a rating below on this podcast. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. So how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yes and no. Actually, I was lately. I had a lot of thoughts in my mind, a lot of fears, negativity, and for me, I have the feeling it's like as if my thoughts or my negative thoughts would be a person. Almost like as if they would attack me out of nowhere. I would have like 2 weeks rest, and then out of nowhere I wake up one morning and it's like the flow of everything, like everything I hate about my husband, everything that went wrong during my birth, every fear that I have about the future for the baby, and so it's
you find this connected to your menstrual cycle?
I'm not.
You don't know your menstrual cycle right now, right?
I don't have any. No.
In the past, has anything ever been connected to the cycle, though?
Yes. I mean, I was more neurotic when I had my periods. Yeah. So more negativity or just being angry or emotions out of control. That would be the case.
Okay, so when you have these thoughts, these sabotagers, which we can call them sub-personalities. So this is Sarah, everyone. And Sarah and I have been working together for a little while, and she had a baby. And she found my work somehow magically, and then she reached out and started to do some sessions, and you've changed, it seems like, a lot, right?
Yeah, it has been really a big, big change. I discovered you actually through your podcast.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you read the books yet or no?
I read both of your books.
Okay. So, did they help you?
Yeah, for sure.
Which more for people that are listening?
I would say the first one, the Mystical Motherhood, I read it after giving birth, and I regret it a bit because it was really so many information about how to prepare the pregnancy, how to eat well, and this kind of things. And right after giving birth, it has really helped me with postpartum.
Yeah.
I struggled with it really, it was really crazy. A lot of things at once when the baby came. And with Fertile, so it's your second book, it was really a completely different approach. I never heard about secret geometry before. So taking it down to everything, like, all the cells, when you create a baby, everything has is like a number, is a specific number, specific form, geometrical form, is really, really crazy. And actually you see it everywhere, right? I mean, every molecule around you, water molecules, everything you eat, it's there is this perfect shape always.
Right. Great.
So it was really, really interesting, I must say, the second book as well. I'm sure I understood everything, I might need to read it once again now that I've given birth, because I read it like several months before I gave birth. So it was really interesting in a way that also I could prepare birth and prepare for the coming of the child. So that was really the good thing about this. Yeah.
So let's start from there, and then we're going to go into these thought patterns and what they are. And so just like in Fertile, when I talk about the elements and I talk about the awakening process, so there's different ways to go through an awakening process. But one of the most basic forms is the elements, because we're made of the elements. So there's 108 elements around the universe, and we have 5 on this planet that are tangible and within all of us. And so as we go through the awakening process, we move through fire, through water, through earth, through air next, earth, and then ether. And then you'll repeat it. And so you alchemize. So in these ancient, in Prague and where you're located in Europe, and the alchemization, these masters that were talking about alchemy, that hiding it in formulas, were really just talking about finding consciousness, high consciousness of God within yourself. And so you likely were going through the fire element before you became pregnant, somehow in your life, your job or something. And everyone who's listening, that's why motherhood is like, I work with women specifically in the process of motherhood, because want it or not, you're going to change. And it's an opportunity to really change. And so typically before a woman becomes pregnant, you're going to go through some sort of a fire element. It's a catastrophe or a change or a boyfriend or a thing. And for me, it was a Kundalini awakening. And then you move into the water element when you're pregnant. And the water element is the emotional body. And so when I talked in Fertile about the emotional body, it can either be like an ocean, completely out of whack and out there, no boundaries, projections, constant, just like the mother goddess out of control. Or it can be like a swimming pool. And I wish I had the book on me to read this section because it's really powerful. But it's like a swimming pool, and you become, once your emotional body, which is the process you're going through right now postpartum, because you're literally letting go of the water. And water also is a dissolution of the things in your life. So if you're moving, you'd often give away objects. It wouldn't surprise me if you move soon. It's like a part of the process of awakening. So you can know exactly what element you're in as you're moving through it. So right now, so the water is also a representation of the subconscious, of the unconscious. And so it's also a reflection of the moon. And so that's when you become very psychic. Like I became very psychic when I was in my water element. I was in each of these elements for years at a time. And some people can go through them really quickly, and then some people need longer. Like I was in the fire element for 5 or 6 years, complete fire every single day. It was very painful. And then the water element, that's when I became psychic. And so you can utilize where you are in the water element right now. And so and also recognize that you're also experiencing your subconscious. So the water is the subconscious, this buried stuff. You'll begin to, have dreams where you're swimming or you're in water. That's when you're in these elements. Sometimes if you're having dreams, you're in guck, it's all alchemy. It's just your consciousness shifting. And then eventually when you become more balanced in your emotional body and you're not so responsive to the partner and reactive and emotional and, bent up, you're going to move into wind. And the wind will come through, just like I explained in the book, Fertile, which is available on Amazon on my website, mysticalmotherhood.com. But the wind will come in and anything that's left over that's emotional, it comes in quick. It's like, it almost like, I want to say the F word. It's like, let me F with, mess with you. And it will, like the wind's like a storm, like, can you handle this? And so you likely move. Like a lot of people are going to the wind element, they'll start moving. I started to travel the world. So you'll maybe start to travel with your child, or you'll go back to work, or it's more of a movement. And so it's like, how emotionally stable are you to move through this? And how quickly can we move you through the awakening process faster? And then the earth element will ground you again. And then the ether gets you deep, deep into God. So right now, when you're having these subconscious thought forms that are arising within you of these different thought patterns, they are people. So people have some people have entities in them, and I don't believe you do, but we all have these kind of self-sabotagers or alternative personalities or aspects of the mind. And Yogi Bhajan said, I think there's 84 aspects of the mind and a minimum of 26 different personalities within every individual. So that's why these Kundalini meditations, I choose them because they are they are the fastest thing on this planet that I know of that changes your consciousness so that you don't have so many damn personalities. And so if we're hard to deal with by ourselves, like if we know our mind's hard to deal with and we begin to awaken and see our own mind and how crazy we are, then we can see of how crazy we are to these other people. You know what I mean? Like so when you begin to see yourself and just like, God, that was nuts. And then my partner thinks I'm crazy. What the hell is he going through? And then you can have compassion for the man because he's dealing with it. And then it's funny. And then life becomes funny because I promise you, moving to another man, you're just going to get the same thing, right? So let's go deep into different thought patterns. Do you have your pen and paper on you, Sarah? Do you have any pen and paper or like a phone? Here, you have it?
Yes.
Okay, so give me 3 of the go-to sabotagers that like to mess with you. So this is like, and it's particularly when it gets really good. And it's also when we begin to create what we want. So for example, I've been talking about my podcast. I've been in the process of creating a beautiful relationship because I went through a divorce and all these different things. And now I've manifested it. And so my sabotagers are coming out very quickly. And so all my little girl sabotagers are coming out and saying, how can I mess this up? It's like, let me test my trust. Let me test my abandonment issues. So what I would have before gone into what you're doing right now, like for days and days of abandonment, I'm now catching probably within 3 to 5 minutes. And then I say to myself, oh, the little girl is afraid of abandonment. This man's not abandoning me. There's nothing to that. It's not a reality. So when things start to get good, we often begin to sabotage ourselves with these sub-personalities and sometimes entities that live within us and want to ruin our lives. So who are your 3 main sabotagers? Let's go to, I'm just calling them sabotagers. We can call them Ed, Fred, Jen. We can give them, and then we're going to go back in your childhood. And I bet you, this is a great exercise. It's actually just coming through right now. So let's say Ed, Fred, and Jen. You make your own names. And then we'll say, Ed, that's daddy. And then we could probably circle daddy. And then we could go to about 3 other memories where daddy messed with you and created that form that you pattern within you of that creates Ed in your current moment. And Ed wants to destroy you. And this, I'm breaking it down like a child would, like mathematics, like 6 minus 2 is 4. And it's that simple. So then these belief systems keep you from living your best life. Yeah. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, that's true. I would say there are definitely more than 3 in my life. But
I want you to write them out.
It depends.
I want you to write them out for us because you're really talking for everybody who's listening right now because everybody does this. So I'm going to talk about mine while you begin to write yours out. I'm going to tell everybody mine because I love I have no shame. Like if I'm going crazy, I'm like, oh, I'm going nuts. Let's laugh about it. And luckily this man that I manifested a very high partnership. And I'm like, and I see how my trust issues are still not healed. I catch it now within minutes. Then abandonment issues came up, catching it within minutes. But I had to go to the little girl of like, okay, when did you feel abandoned? And then also other sabotagers can come into your thoughts too. So like your dead grandma, let's say, could come in and be like, you're not safe, because all of the ancestral generational patterns are going to affect you too. Does this make sense, Sarah?
For
take
sure.
some time and write out your sabotagers. And let us know.
I have actually already a few. So the one we talked already together about is the victimhood. So always the need to play the victim so that people show me love, compassion.
So there's pattern. One. What do you want to name this one? What's its name? Because it makes it kind of funny. You can start to laugh with your partner. You can be like, oh, Jen's talking right now. What do you want to name this one?
Joe.
Joe. Okay, so because then you're going to make fun of it because it begins to become a joke. And then once it's funny, you're not going to, like my first husband, he knew exactly how to make fun of me until the end. Then it wasn't funny anymore. But like he knew how to make fun of me so I would get out of my neurotic shit. And so for you, it's like you need to like almost go to your partner and be like, these are the things I do to mess us up. And when Joe starts talking, I need you to just call Joe out. And so we can both laugh and we both know it's not me. None of these things are you. These are deep, programmed, awful, generational and childhood trauma that you're trying to release. That if you do not release it, that baby's going to hold it. And so that's why you're in the emotional body of healing it. And you're still in the water. And the water is all about emotions. And victimhood's a massive one. So congratulations for finding it and localizing it and seeing its pattern. And honest to God, you could probably, and it might be a good homework as you begin to graph it out. And count how many days you can go, because I'm going to guess, since working with me, you're able to go longer, right? Like maybe you did victimhood like every other day before. And then maybe now you can go 4 days without victimhood. And then maybe it's true. Victimhood and it peaks up, and then it peaks up a little bit more, and then it really goes high because nobody gave you enough attention. And then Joe gets right. Joe goes really up high, and then Joe's like, okay, fine, I got my attention. I'm okay now. And then. And it's like a heart graph of like, are you going to pay attention? Are you going to pay attention to me? Do I still live within you? And then once you begin to catch that Joe quicker and like take Joe by the neck and be like, you don't own me anymore. This is not me. And you look it right in the face, then it becomes what you're telling me, a person. So not only is a subpersonality of you that is, again, back to the sabotager or generational pattern or whatever, but it's also like something that looks at you. So I have the teachers in Kundalini. They describe these things living in your auric field. And so when I'm often speaking with somebody, and I'm going to show you with my eyes as I'm speaking to you, they'll look up to the left and they'll be speaking about something and they're looking up to the left. Like a lot of the clients I work with at the clinic. So they'll talk about a boyfriend or their dad or something, and they're looking up to the left or they're looking over to the right. And then I know where it's living in their field. So it's living that memory or that subconscious pattern is living within their auric field up and to the left. So with Kundalini, it's like, okay, we know it lives there. But okay, nothing we can do about it. It's been there. Could have been lifetimes after lifetimes. Let's just do this meditation and just going to lift it out. And you don't have to do anything. So that's great. But you can also find out as you're speaking when Joe begins. So write this down. This is homework. When Joe begins to arise and Joe wants to go into mode of victimhood, I want you to see how many times in a row Joe will come up until you get the attention you need.
Yeah.
Because that's what you needed to do as a child, you know? And then I want you to sort of begin to see almost how you drop into, you can see, I want you to begin to actually watch yourself and be like, there's shapeshifters on this planet. So there's all kinds of people, you can see in their eyes and you can read faces. And I was just teaching this to somebody the other day. And shapeshifters, like I actually had a boyfriend like this. And one moment he would be one person and then his body would shapeshift into something different. And his energy field would change because he had more than one kind of personality running in him. And so when you're going into Joe, look at the way your body forms. And then I bet you it would be conform almost to the way you first had the trauma.
Okay.
Look at where your eyes go. And this is really the awakening process of like really seeing ourselves as like, so trauma lives in the face. And there's a way to read trauma that Hari Jiwan, one of the teachers at Rama Institute, taught a friend because he doesn't teach it out loud. So when you're looking at somebody's photo, just a thought, just something to know about ourselves and each other is when we're looking at somebody's photo, the left side of a face shows what they show the world. And you can look at your own photo and do this. So the left side of the face facing the picture, if you have the picture in front of you, the left side of the face shows what the person is showing to the world, who they represent themselves as. The right side of the face shows who they really are. And so typically on the right side of the face, the trauma is held. So before, I had a lot of trauma and my face was uneven. I could look in photos and I couldn't get one side of my face not to squint completely. The eyes would close. It was like half contorted. As I've done Kundalini yoga and as I've done white tantra and as I've done my meditations daily, my face has evened out. My eyes are even now. And as I did particularly the Jupiter chakra meditation, which is what you're doing, your face will even out. And so I'm bringing this up just so everyone has some idea, is that the level of consciousness can be seen within somebody and the trauma can be found within yourself and within other people you're coming into contact with. So do you have any questions? What are you thinking right now?
And I noticed something similar in general when we look at the pictures of some people, that you can really say somehow, if you focus on the picture, where they are in that moment where the picture was taken. And if you look back several years before, it's really crazy. You see really what the people went through, what the change was, or if it went worse or if it went better. And especially some childhood pictures that I've looked at from me. And that was really like, I could tell, even though as a child you would say, oh, children are always so happy, but I could see on the picture that something is wrong, like the eye focus is not there or something, always already not so present.
And do you sometimes, so for me now, I think it's because I did the Jupiter chakra meditation for 2 years, which is for childhood trauma. And I begin now, I can basically, if somebody walks up to me, I can see where they're stuck in childhood. So when you do these Kundalini meditations and you do them for a very long time, you basically become the meditation. And as a result of that, this is my experience of it, the meditation then affects everyone around you. So these meditations, these Kundalini meditations, is like once it's in my auric field and I face my demon, I then give a chance to another woman to face hers without even necessarily speaking about it. It can be even over the airwaves like this. It could be in my voice. It's almost like a silent transmission. So as we're all changing each other, all of this work, the spiritual work we're doing for the next generation, doesn't have to be vocal. It's in a vibratory frequency. And so like because I've done all that personal work like you're doing with the Jupiter chakra meditation, which is in my book, Mystical Motherhood, it's amazing. If you had any childhood trauma, it puts you right on a path and you can begin to heal it quickly. Then you can help other people and you can easily see where they're stuck. So if somebody walks up to me, I can be like 8 years old, beat by father. It's like, it's on, and then immediately without even, I don't have to say anything. They'll say, I was beat by my father at 8 years old. I'm like, I know. I just heard that. And then they're able to open up to me and they don't even know why they're telling me that within 10 minutes of meeting me. But it's because I went through a transformation of healing that trauma or whatever, whatever my trauma was, whatever their trauma was. And maybe it wasn't even trauma to them or trauma to me, but it allows the space for them to see it within themselves, like a mirror. And so back to the personality thing is like soon these personalities that are staring at you in your auric field and saying, and Ed, what's his name?
Joe?
Joe. And Joe starts looking at you like, are you going to play victim? Are you going to play victim? And you're like, no, Joe, not today. And you're going to like battle with these. And you got to, and it's like, we all have to you have to begin to know yourself so well. It's like, what do you go to? What's your go-to? Where are you looking? So where does it live? So like, let's say it lives up here. Okay, Joe's up there. We know it's there. And when is it going to come out? So then for you, you're talking from the beginning of this journey with us. So tell us the pattern of when Joe begins to arise and who Joe likes, who are Joe's friends. So victimhood's one, but then Joe has 5-6 friends, right? They always have 5-6 friends.
Yes, but what would you mean by friends exactly?
So like Yogi Bhajan says, like with one sabotager, there's always 5 friends. So like, let's say you drink alcohol, your sabotager is drinking alcohol. Then with the drinking of the alcohol, too much alcohol, you're going to sleep in, you're going to feel like crap, probably going to eat the wrong food, you're going to call the wrong guy, and then you're going to feel really shitty about yourself. Right? That's 5 friends. Like that's just like a basic.
Okay.
Or, like, so each of our go-to sabotagers. So mine is abandonment. My little girl's like, where are you going? I need you. And it's like, no, I don't. I'm having so much fun. Why do I need somebody to always be there? That's my go-to little girl. And now I would go through, just so you know, the journey. When I was in the water element, my abandonment issue would take up months to days of my energy.
Where am I?
My destiny. I couldn't do my destiny because let's name abandonment Betty. Betty and I would just have conversations all day long about everybody us and why they're such assholes. And so Betty and I just lived together. I was basically having a full relationship with Betty. and then it's like, and we think we're normal. No, we're all living in crazy loony houses.
And it's taking all your energy, right?
What was that? It takes all your energy.
Yeah.
And you don't even know who you are or what you came here to create or the destiny that you were put on until you begin to clear it. And not until I went through all this work. I mean, I went through 7 years of deep, deep daily excavation of my psyche. Did my books start to flow through? Did I be able to help other women? I mean, so at least you're starting, and then that's how you pull another one with you. And then you tell another friend, and then you tell another friend, and then we're all going to pull each other out of this.
Yeah.
So you don't have to live with your friends and all his. So, okay, so let me give you an example. So I'm living with Betty. Betty and I are super abandoned. And we're so sad, right? When I'm in the water element, probably after I had the babies. And during, because that's all the water, and the water is so sad,
yes,
conscious,
of course.
But it's also when you become very psychic, so you become more, more perceptive of the environment. So you just have to know all these things are possible within this element. There's the negatives to the positives of it. And again, you can read about this in Fertile, which is you can find on the first page of mysticalmotherhood.com. It's an amazing book. But so let's say I had the abandonment issues. What would be Betty's friends? What would I go to really mess myself up? Probably drink alcohol. Betty liked alcohol, too much wine. What else did Betty like? Betty, just whatever. Like Betty would feed it. Betty needed to be fed first. So what my teachers say at the Rama Institute, Guru Jaga always has a really good way of saying this. She says, the subconscious thought form will always be fed first. So you could have destiny in front of you. You could have king. So for me, it was that I wanted to get to this juicy, amazing, loving relationship. And I have been on a journey my whole life to get to this. And then there's all these things in the way that want to come first. And these sabotagers, Betty, Betty wants to just Betty's still there. And now I'm like, oh, no, Betty, we're not doing this, And so it's like Betty, who used to take up, months of my time, now takes up a few minutes, but it's still there even after 8 years. But it's almost like I catch it now and I know right to go to the little girl that's abandoned, because right now in this moment, I'm not abandoned. Not a part of me is feeling lack. So it has to be an aspect of my childhood or a little girl within me that still needs to be that's still unhealed. And then one day, I know Betty will fully disappear. Is this helping?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, there are so many aspects of those thought forms that are coming through. It's like
amazing,
on a daily basis. I mean, some days you can say I'm crazy, because I'm just battling with my own thoughts, and I didn't, even if I stay at home, I would just be with the baby and do nothing tiring or something. At the end of the day, I'm completely exhausted, and yeah.
And that's particularly the postpartum period, and that's particularly the water period. So let's pretend, let's look at the water element, because the postpartum is the water is the unconscious. And so it's like, go back to that chapter in my book of understanding the water element. So you really know what element you're in, and you begin to become the commander of the element, so that one day water doesn't take over. And then when you get to the wind element, anxiety doesn't take over. And so water is these super, super deep subconscious and unconscious things that you've never dealt with before. And water typically gives you the time to deal with it. So that's what's going on, is like you're literally in this ocean of time. It's like going by so slow and so fast. And then tell me what other
unpredictable, basically. It's like you don't see the wave coming. There are some days it's calm, and the other days it's like tsunami.
Yeah.
So
you know what? Two things that really help me with the addictive thoughts, and I mean, whoever's listening, I cannot tell you how much I avoided this meditation, but it's called the addiction meditation, and it's in Mystical Motherhood, my first book, and you can Google it on YouTube for free. It's actually on my website, www.mysticalmotherhood.com, in the top bar for free. You put your email address in, it's free. And it's my download from my book. It is the easiest meditation. You put your thumbs on your temple and you squeeze your back molars, and you as you're squeezing, you silently chant Sa Ta Nama. One of my biggest subconscious thought forms, my biggest sabotager that I've been speaking about in many podcasts, is my father. And so remember, we can take these until we become to really awakened and really look at our consciousness. Any thoughts we're having, or if they're not creative, they're going to be destructive. And so any of my destructive thought forms tend to be obsessed with the male and the negative aspects of the male. So you may be experiencing this too, are you? I'm going to guess you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's all just say we're projecting all these negative things on the male. And so maybe the male's abandoning us. And probably not reality, because they're just working or whatever, like paying for, whatever they're doing, who cares? Then maybe the male doesn't give us enough love, or the male's not
exactly
enough, right?
Not listening enough.
Yeah, the male's not listening. What else does the male do? Tell me what the male does to you.
So for me, it's mainly he doesn't listen enough. So he's just always talking about himself. So as if he wouldn't be interested in me. That's what he does to me. That's the main thing. And
then you think about it, right? It's just about him, right?
Yeah. Thinking like, okay, well, why are we together?
Which could be him. It could be him, or it could be that he's mirroring to you. So what these men are going to do is they're going to mirror to us anything left unhealed within us.
Yeah. And
so I had somebody write me about, just to kind of go off subject, but not to go off subject, because I'm going to tie this all in together soon. I'm going to actually finish the addiction meditation experience, and then I'm going to talk about this older podcast I did on dangerous men. So with the addiction meditation, I couldn't get the obsessive negative male thoughts out of my mind, which were really connected back to disliking daddy and not having a daddy fully love me. And so I was constantly mad at the male not loving me the way I thought they should love me, when it was really I needed to give myself that love. And
yeah, actually, this meditation, we talked about it, I think last time in our session, and I started doing it also, like I started with 3 minutes, and I thought I need to give up because I couldn't make it, and now I build it up to 11 minutes as well. So
yeah, it took me 5 years to start that meditation, because any meditation you're completely like horrified by is the one you should do, because it's the one that's like your consciousness knows it's going to change you. So I didn't want to do that one. And then finally when I did it, it did the most for me, and it's the simplest one. I think it's the addiction of just, doing drugs or drinking or something. And it's really our addictive thoughts. And so I bet if you up that, what's his name again? This guy that works, your victim?
Joe.
Joe won't have as much power, because Joe is probably just related back to daddy and mommy. That's all it is. Joe's just a living fragment of your imagination, because mommy and daddy don't live with you anymore.
I'm reliving it over and over again.
And then I was going to link in this past podcast, but I don't remember how to do it. I think somebody wrote it and they were saying, which I might do a podcast with her, but she said, how, I did a podcast on, did I talk about how to spot a dangerous man?
No.
Okay. So there's a book, I did a podcast on a book called How to Spot a Dangerous Man Before You Get Involved. And in it has, all the different factors of the type of male there is. So we're talking about this because we're mad at your husband, right? We've had a lot of but this is what my next thing is about, is all of anything we're creating in our relationships, even if it's fragments, any abandonment issues, any lack of love, any lack, it lives in us first. And until we really understand that, so I was always attracting these dangerous men in some sort of shape, manner, form. And then even I've had women come to me and say, well, is there a good man out there? And I'm like, oh yes, there are. But you have to clear yourself so much that you bring that good man comes to you. So a woman wrote me and said, well, why can't we give these men a chance? If, what are they going to work through it? So the woman in this book who wrote How to Spot a Dangerous Man, she was just saying these men are pathological, and these, different, just listen to the podcast. It was like 3 or 4 ago, whoever's listening. Really good for anyone to listen to, anybody. But these different aspects of the male, that's fine that they're pathological. They probably won't change, but you can't try to change them. The only thing you can do is change yourself and then begin to attract a higher caliber man. So if you want to experience so what do we want your husband to do more? How do we want to change it? So we're going to change it within you first. So what do you want him to do? You want him to listen to you?
Just be more, when I talk to him, just that he remembers what I say, and he asks me how am I doing, and just more taking care of me, kind of.
Okay, so where do you think that comes from in your, because so that's also, I am going to believe that if you begin to gather more of your own self-worth, of your own self-confidence, of your own love for yourself, you would automatically tell him these things. And then the answer would become even, because your victim, this is kind of Joe too. Joe kind of likes the pattern, the sabotager of he's not listening to me.
Yeah.
In reality, are you speaking up?
That's what he's telling me. He's saying, yeah, but you never tell me anything. And I'm like, yeah, but I want you to show me you're interested in me. If I tell you, it's not the same, because sometimes you don't even listen to me when I talk. So then I shut down,
But who's talking, you or Joe? Get it?
I think it's Joe. Yeah.
So then we begin to really look at. So everyone who's listening, whoever you're, Betty, Joe, pick your battle. Write the name down. So everyone who's listening, let's name our shit. Give it a funny name, and then see how many times Betty or Joe. Because my little abandonment will sneak into everything, and your victimhood likes to sneak into everything, and how much we project it onto the other person. Because the victim also typically doesn't like to speak up, because the victim member, they're victims. They can't breathe, and then like this. Let's go to the archetype, and then go to the archetype of that. So what does the archetype of the victim look like? They can't breathe. They might be dead. They might be being, I think of a victim and they're getting strangled, right? Yeah. And they just, it goes back into what we were talking about. You probably get into that form, like you shapeshift into the victim. Your body may contort when Joe comes out. And you're like, oh, this is Joe. It's not me.
No. And actually, it's a funny thing, because we were watching Lord of the Ring with my husband lately. So watching the three movies, because he never watched it. And there's this persona, this character who's called Gollum. So I don't know if you've seen the movie, but Gollum is basically like this horrible character, like hiding in the cave and having double personality. So like talking to himself and his reflection is talking back to him. And after some points, my husband was starting to call me Gollum, every time. So
I'm just reading for that. I'm just, so he's seeing, crazy. He's just saying in a funny way a man would say, what I'm reading for you that they're telling me to tell you right now is, this is who's talking to you. You're telling me, I feel like I have personalities talking to me. So we know it, find out where it lives, find out what it looks like, look it in the eye every single day and see how many times and how, so that what we're talking about, that sabotager will have 5 different friends. And so those 5 different friends will come in these other forms. So just like, he doesn't listen to me. It's like, no, that's the victim that feels strangled, that they can't speak up for themselves. And once that victim becomes solidly healed within you, your partner will not be able to mirror it back to you, because it won't live within you anymore, because you don't need to experience it anymore. You'll want to experience something different with him. And if at some point your frequencies change, like you heal so much that he doesn't need to become a mirror for you, then you'll find a new partner to mirror something new to you. And it's like, if we stop looking at it as this is sad or this is horrible, and it's hard to go through. But that's the reality of this world, is everything's just a mirror of your consciousness.
Everything seems perfect. There is still something coming in the way, because it's not us, right? It's a different part of ourselves that is speaking through us in some way. And the trauma, the beliefs, I'm still amazed how powerful this is, how it influences your whole life, your every decision, how it can even destroy your relationship. I mean, I could destroy this relationship, although my husband is in many ways, that's the man of my life, I would say. And you can destroy it in an instant. I'm amazed how powerful those thought forms are, and how it can shape your life. And for me, at several times, it could have destroyed my relationship with my husband. And that's not what I want. But sometimes it's making me act in ways that are really not appropriate or very destructive.
But that's what Joe the victim, or Joe, the sabotager, would want for you. And you have to look at these things as almost like, and when I say entities, sometimes they are living entities, like negative ghosts or negative that suck out your life. And the way entities are just as real as like light field beings. And people have them. So if somebody's flipping from personality, if you have somebody in your life that's flipping from personality to personality to personality, they may even you act super psychotic, or they often ruin it. That can be a living entity within them. And it has to be released, or they don't even sometimes remember when they're flipping from person to person. So if you're conscious of it, you can just be like, this is just a part of my personality, but this is how complicated we are. Does that feel, I mean, and I don't feel like this is an entity for you, but entities come in at a time when you may be drinking, you call out for protection, basically. It could be in childhood. It could be when you're on drugs, drinking, or getting abused. So if there's been times in your life that you're completely out of control and you're calling out for help and your frequency is very, very, very low, and could be your mother has them or your father or somebody, that's a different thing, an entity, like a negative force upon you, than these subconscious thought forms that I'm speaking of. The subconscious thought forms I'm thinking of are kind of like what looks you in the face, these personalities.
Yeah.
So do you think Joe runs the show, or do you think Joe has any other friends?
I think Joe has a lot of friends, but he's very sneaky, So since I started working on discovering in which ways he's behaving, it's calmed down. As you said, it's not happening every day or every other day. It's happening maybe once a week or every 2 weeks, that he needs to play his victimhood. But he definitely has some friends in the area of abandonment, the fear of being separated.
So first Joe likes to be victim. Then if Joe doesn't get attention from victim, then Joe will move to abandonment. And then what does abandonment look like?
It would be like anxiety, every time somebody's leaving me, there would be it's not very strong, Sometimes it's very just like I'm noticing, okay, I'm very sad, this person is leaving, and it's almost like it would be over, like something is not my life is over, but like I really feel this deep void and emptiness. Especially when it's people who are close to me. So let's say my husband would go out with some friends. Even if I want him to do this, I would feel very, very abandoned at times. And that's one example.
So that's one friend. So the abandonment's one friend. Is there another emotion that goes with Joe? So that's sadness. Joe likes sadness. Likes to feel really bad, right?
There's also the food aspect. So basically, I need to eat all the time, and sometimes I'm not really in the present moment when I eat. I'm really just like eating very quickly and eating until I'm really stuffed, And
but that's actually a gift. Because in a way, let's flip that. So I always like to flip things on people. So to find the ground around the gifts that we have. So remember I told you, we know Joe's coming around when your body gets contorted. You start to look up to the right or the left, the face, body, right? We know Joe's coming out. And then we know Joe's coming out big time when the food starts coming. And so like, okay, that's right there. Joe's, you're probably at the peak of Joe. Joe's like, I am ready and I'm going to go party tonight. So your husband's finally going out for drinks. You go into abandonment mode, food comes out. So it's like right there, catch it. But we love sabotage so much. We're so used to the sabotage cycle. And it's just like a binge and purge. It's just like drugs. So if, people are like, I don't smoke weed anymore. I don't drink anymore. It's like, well, did you really get to what was going on of why you were drinking? Did you really get to the thing of like what caused the drinking? Because they'll just transfer it onto something else. And these sabotagers within us are connected. So some might be a cocaine, some might be, heavy alcohol, or some other things like might be sugar. And that sugar is a numbing mechanism, so that you actually don't get to fully feel Joe.
Yeah, that's what I really noticed that. And the thing is, right now, every time I eat, I'm thinking about this. I'm like, shit, I'm sorry, I'm eating again. And that's really, I notice it, but I don't really know what to do with it, because it's quite strong, you know. I really need to eat, otherwise I become aggressive or I become unsettled. So it's not.
Well, because if you don't eat, okay, so that's your way to numb, and that's your way the little girl feels safe when she eats, because she feels loved, right? But in reality, that aggression and that feeling of it is probably going to get Joe out of your body, or to get the victim really healed faster, is to fully feel it. And this whole world would heal a lot faster if we all, didn't smoke so much weed or do so much CBD. All of these things are just mass media produced experiences to numb us out, so that we continue to play robots to these sabotagers that live within ourselves and the whole entire system. I mean, it really, once you begin to awaken, it's like when I began to awaken to all of this, like there's not only these personalities within us, but then there's an entire controlled system around the government and around our food. I mean, I'm not being a crazy woman here. I'm just saying it's nuts out there. And so why do we, and of course we all do it, but it's like, let's do it less and less and less and less. And back to the addiction meditation, it's going to stop those things too. And so that when you're going to the food, it's the little girl that needs to feel safe with something, because she's at home alone and nobody's with her loving her. So she needs to fill herself back up, because she doesn't know how to self-soothe yet, but she uses food to do so. And so if she literally maybe didn't eat, or if you're listening, your go-to is alcohol, or your go-to is weed, or your go-to is rubbing CBD oil. You're not offensive to any of these things. I have done everything. Every drug, I promise I've done. But not anymore, because I just stopped needing them to numb myself out, because I had to go directly into my pain and fully feel the original wound. How does this feel, Sarah?
I must say I'm becoming more and more aware of that. So there's just this little voice in my head, saying like, oh, it's okay, just eat it this time. You can listen to this voice and analyze it later or another time. This time it's fine if you just eat, and
Yeah, so
it's like kind of postponing it.
About it.
Sorry?
So your homework will be, this is your homework, your start of your homework.
Yeah.
And this is a new moon. So first off, do your new moon intentions today.
Okay.
And of new moon intentions, and do it in the ancient sacred way, where you start in a circle and you circle out, I need whatever. Nice. So I need to feel grounded. I need to feel loved. I need to learn to be balanced with my partner. I need more money, or whatever. So that's a really good thing to do on the new moon. That's just one homework. And you circle your needs in a big circle, and then you put a symbol on the outside. And you do it all in a circle, like circling out. And then circling it all, and then the symbol. And then so also for your homework, you're going to take your sabotager and you're going to put it in the middle of a piece of paper. Anybody who's listening, name your guy. Mine's Betty, right? So we got Betty, and then from that Betty, from the middle of the paper, that might be looking kind of like a gross cell, like a cell that we're trying to break down, it like oozes out. Then you're going to name all the things that feed with that. Yours is Joe. Yeah. So all the things that feed Joe, all the go-to, we're just going to go with 5 maybe, that Joe likes and keeps Joe alive. What feeds Joe? Because the cell, the virus, the cancer, the whatever it is within you needs food.
Yeah.
And so literally half, one is yours, is food. So when you go into these modes, and yours might be these thought forms, so the patterns of like whatever it is, then you have your piece of paper out and you're like, oh my God, this isn't me. This is the thought form feeding itself. And this is what's keeping me away from my destiny and going to mess up my kid's life. I mean, if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your child. Just do it like that. Be like, and for me, it was like, I was so angry. I was viciously mad. And if I didn't change, I would have created terrified children because I had so much anger running through me because of my father. And until I went deeply into the wound of my father, I just now catch myself when I'm angry, like within seconds now. And before I could have, it was just in me. I was so mad. I was mad at the male. And that might be a part of Joe too.
Yeah.
And so I'm back to this podcast thing that I did before on Dangerous Men. I'm only bringing this up because we're talking about your husband and the things that we blame all these things on them, right? If you're in relationship, it's all them, or it's not. Whatever they're mirroring to you, or you're even beginning to think about them. So they might not have even done it yet. You're already projecting they're going to do it. I do that all the time. I'm projecting the abandonment before it happens. It hasn't happened, right? So it makes me laugh because it's like, that's how messed up we are. But if I'm experiencing it within me, it's still left unhealed. If I'm experiencing it within anybody else's personality or how they act, it's still left within me unhealed. Otherwise, I wouldn't experience it through them. They wouldn't be in my field anymore. And particularly sometimes when these men get out of your field, or even women, let's replace it with women, it's not in your frequency anymore. You don't need the lesson anymore. So if you're out of a relationship and it's not working, it's because you don't need that lesson anymore. Or that person will meet you there. Like if you're still supposed to be someone's still supposed to be in your life, their consciousness will change at the same rate as yours and they'll stay.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's that's really true. I can see this, like it's it's reflected for me straight away. As soon as I start working on something, I mean, for example, still since I started working with you, the relationship with my husband improved so much, I mean, maybe he doesn't feel it, but I feel inside of me there is much less conflict. So maybe there are still some things that are active through Joe, but it's not as much or not as intense as it used to be. So it's really, it's a work you have to do, right? And it takes some time.
And what you did is you changed the relationship within yourself. So then that's all this work's about. And this is what my third book is going to be about. All of this stuff we project onto anybody else, it all lives within you first. It is never the other person, or you wouldn't be experiencing it. I mean, maybe they are showing you that, but it's just an aspect of you. And it becomes, so once you begin to catch it faster and you begin to really awaken, you just look at people and whatever they're mirroring to you is an aspect of yourself. And as your frequency begins to change, and you be like, that was actually going to be Mystical Motherhood's name, is New Frequency. And then that didn't make any sense. So it's Mystical Motherhood. But as your frequency begins to change, the people around you will, if you become more light, you're going to be surrounded by way more lighter people. If you have any more darkness in you that needs to come out, darkness will come. And darkness is always going to be attracted to the light, but it can be repelled faster. So as you begin to change yourself, the other person is going to meet you there, or they're going to leave because it will not work anymore. And both of those are beautiful things. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the great thing about this is on every moment, where you are actually. You just have to look what is in my life at the moment, and what is surrounding me, what are the people surrounding me, how do they behave, and it's a direct reflection of what is going on inside. That's amazing, actually.
It is amazing. And it's amazing. So you can look right at your partner and just be so grateful for him for doing this for you. And then you can look at Joe and be like, this is funny. This is crazy. And then make fun of it.
Yeah. Maybe it's not Joe. Maybe it's really Gollum.
Yeah, like call it
right
Gollum.
Name.
And then make a joke with your husband about it. Be like, Gollum's coming out. And I promise you, your husband has stuff too. It's just like, men are just like less complicated. Like we can have like 16 things going on in our minds, and we're actually running 16 things, and we're going forward and backwards and in present time all in one moment, and the male is watching TV. I mean, it's not weird. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Everything's fine. You know?
Yeah, right.
They're like, and he's right. He's saying, speak up. And you're like, well, you need to have me. No, it's like, no, just learn to speak up. And that's just gaining your self-worth and you gaining your self-esteem. And it takes some practice.
Yeah. You need to take ownership of your things, right? So what you want to have, you need to step for it and really, I mean, yeah, as you're saying, when I want him to listen more, maybe I should say more things on my own first of all. And that's something I was avoiding always, because there's this fear of being rejected if I speak my truth, or if I say what I really think and what are my needs. So yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? Was this helpful? Do you have any more questions?
For me, it's more how to deal when it's really becoming strong, you know, like as I told you, at the moment, the wave is very strong. In a way, it's showing up in my reality. So how do you deal with it when it's like this?
Well, I think it takes years to swim through the subconscious. And just when you think you swam through it, it's literally like swimming. Go back to fertile and just imagine yourself in an ocean. And it's like each dead fish you come upon is like a layer after layer after layer of things that happen to you. And each of those things go back into like the first breath of life, to the womb, to the moment you connected with your parents' consciousness at birth, to the universe, to the past lives, to your family's generational history. It's really never ending. And like, what's the purpose? So that's why nobody ever wants to go into it, because it's a never ending muck. And so for me, it's honestly just now finally taking a breath of joy and love and laughter in my life. But it took so many years of so much practice of going through all that. And as I went through it on my own personal level, the more muck I cleared out, the more I could channel for people. Like these books, the more, like the third book's going to be much better than the first two. And each one's going to get better. And the podcast or the creative things, or being able to work with people at the clinic, I got on my destiny. And so that's what your mission is. It's so that you begin to clear out all these other things, these people, I guess we call them the personalities that live within us, that try to take us off our path. Because we all came here for a mission, and our children came here for a mission. So if we don't even make our mission, which most of us don't, and I don't even know, there's some stat to it of like, we all have a mission. We wouldn't have come here. We all have something to do, but only like 1% make it. And there's actually top levels to that destiny. So let's say there's 6 different glass ceilings you want to bust through. So you might bust through one glass ceiling and be like, okay, I'm fine just living the rest of this incarnation out. But you could bust through 6 more ceilings and bust out a lot more information or projects or helping people or people you touch. And the projects, if you're listening, it's like, it's not about becoming famous. It's not about how, people knowing your name necessarily. It can even be just in your frequency, because it could even just be in the way that you touch a person's heart, and then their heart is opened and they touch somebody else's heart. And so all the work you're doing, if you're listening or you're doing the spiritual work, especially you, Sarah, it could be just for your own baby in front of you. And because of that, you don't know what your child's destiny is and how many people that child may touch. And sometimes with my own work, I don't even think it's about mystical motherhood in these books and this podcast and these things. I think it's so that my children can make it to their destiny. And I think their destiny is so much bigger than anything I could ever create. So all the work I could be doing on each other, doing on myself, talking about these children is really just so that my own kids don't get messed up like I was.
Yeah.
Is that a perspective of it?
That's really for me. I feel the same. I mean, since I have this child, I really feel that he's gonna do things differently, and he's gonna finally break the circle of all the repetitive habits and thoughts and everything that's been in my generation and in the generations before. So yeah, I really feel that I need to do this not only for myself, but also for him and for maybe the other children to come.
Right. And another thing, if anyone's listening, you'll finally meet a teacher in your life, and the teacher will come. So I want to read a quote. This is a quote I wrote the day I did the stairs in India with Guru Jagat. And it says, 80% of people meet their teacher in their lifetime and run. And that's a fact. So if you're listening, 80% of you will meet your spiritual teacher in your lifetime. And you look at that spiritual teacher and you're conscious. It's just like looking right, not wanting to deal with the subconscious thought form in front of you. So you know that, this guy exists, but you're like, I can't conquer this. So 80% will meet their teacher, the spiritual teacher, and run away from their spiritual teacher. So that might be like you walk into a yoga class, you're really attracted to the teacher, or you find the book and the book is leading to, and you will you'll meet that person that's going to guide you out of this illusion, out of all this subconscious gunk and mess, at least put you on your path for more incarnations. And everybody runs away. Just like you, it's the same kind of idea of you taking food to numb yourself out. And then I have a book I'll read. A teacher is an artist with hammer and chisel. Whenever you meet a teacher, God, there will be a spark. At first introduction of you and your teacher, you are going to find what is wrong with you. Mostly you will not like what you hear. You'll skip that person. You are most welcome to skip it. But you do not know what you have lost, that one chance which the soul was promised. And so what you're doing, Sarah, here, this work is you're looking into your soul, which is vast and never ending. So once we eliminate this subconscious thought form, another one will arise. And then you become, so what it's all about, the only thing you need to do in this life is empty yourself.
Come back to the root, to the origin of everything, right? And
you're going back to the original belief system, each one of them, where they're found, and pulling them out one by one by one, because none of it's true. None of it.
Yeah.
So is there any more questions you have, or do you feel like you have enough homework or a better understanding of what's going on? Was this helpful for you? Anything you need?
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you very much. I think I'm gonna work on that first of all, and let's see what comes up next. But now it's a good time for me, since it's a lot is coming up. That's a good time to work on it.
Right. So begin to see all the patterns of where it manifests from this one major thing, and how all of these patterns begin to just try to destroy you and your happiness. You'll be absolutely amazed by it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.